Las religiones indígenas ancestrales tenían una relación por la naturaleza y sus elementos muy cercana. Veneraban cosas, muchas cosas de la naturaleza, muchos elementos de la naturaleza. Nuestra religión moderna no lo hace, eso no existe. ¿Cómo crees que eso afecta la manera en que nosotros nos relacionamos con el planeta?
This is the most important, es la cosa más importante de todo. Miren, every culture is faithful to its own interpretation of reality. Every culture thinks that it's the real world and everybody else is a failure to be them. What we say in English, cultural myopia, has been the curse of humanity. And we think that because of that, we forget that we as a culture are a product of our own history, a product of our own choices. And the Western paradigm, whether you call it modernity, whether you call it science, has given us great things, but it's got a very shallow history of 300 years in which we've been living on the ancient sunlight of the world. And just because that way of thinking appears to be dominant, appears to be ubiquitous, should not suggest that it's the norm, that it's normal. On the contrary, it's highly anomalous in the human experience. We in the West desperately tried during the Enlightenment to liberate ourselves from the tyranny of absolute faith. We tried to liberate the individual from the tyranny of the collective, which was a sociological equivalent of splitting the atom. And in doing so, when Descartes said that all that exists is mind and mechanism, in a single gesture, he deanimated the world. As we tried to get rid of myth, mysticism, magic, we also got rid of metaphor. Science made a house cleaning of belief. The triumph of secular materialism became the conceit of modernity. The notion that the flight of a bird could have meaning, that a mountain could be the abode of a deity, that a forest could be the homeland of the spirits, was ridiculed, dismissed as ridiculous. And that way of thinking determined how we interacted with the natural world. Ours has always been a model since the Enlightenment of exploitation, extraction, based on the idea that the world is inanimate, inert, just waiting to be exploited, right? And that is not the way that most people around the world think of it. We often use this word, the indigenous people. What does that mean? We're all indigenous to the planet Earth. And it creates a false dichotomy, the modern world, the indigenous world. The truth is, Nicolás, there are 7,000 voices of humanity, 7,000 languages, each a flash of the human spirit, each the way that the soul of a culture comes into the world. Every culture has something to say. Each deserves to be heard. Each is a unique answer to a fundamental question. What does it mean to be human and alive? And the way we think about the world, in which the human being exists alone on a stage set, with the animals and the plants just props to support our drama, is totally the extreme anomalous example. Every culture, aside from ourselves, bases their relationship on reciprocity. The idea that human beings are owed something by the earth in turn deserves the loyalty of human beings. And that notion of reciprocity is what drives most relationships. And the reason this is so important is because metaphor is what determines the human experience. If I believe that a mountain is a pile of rock, nothing more, I don't hesitate to tear it apart. If I believe that a mountain is a deity, that will direct my destiny, then I treat it in a different way. Most peoples around the world are like the Barasana on the Macuna of the Colombian Amazon, who literally believe that plants and animals are just people in another dimension of reality. And if there's one lesson to come out of COVID, it's that we are just one species on the planet. We're a biological species on a biological planet, and we better realize that we have to change our ways. And the very existence of all these cultures and their different visions of life puts a lie to those of us in our culture who say that we cannot change when we know we must change the fundamental way in which we inhabit the planet.
Gracias.